How are we? All right, we'll take it. Welcome to those of you joining us on the online location. We are so blessed we get to do this. How about that? How about young families? Is there anything better than young families going, hey, I'm giving these back, right? They're God's kids. We just get to be a part of their journey, and hopefully if you're anything like me, not screw them up too much, right? So, but no, seriously, what a moment to be able to dedicate kids back to the Lord. I mean, it's such a powerhouse moment. So one of the things that we love is we get to do this as a family. So if you're new here, you got a great glimpse into we're a family. And that means that we're even here for the journey of raising kids together. And that's just a wild ride altogether. But man, along with that, we get to be a family that mirrors the image of God. Did you know that? That what we do is we are plan A. I know if you're anything like me, I'm like, really, God, you left me plan A? But Jesus left and he looked at the church and went, hey, you're plan A. Plan A to what? Show the world what God is like. And so one of the values we hold as a church family is that our God is generous in nature. And what he wants to make out of our family is we are generous. So like you heard Todd talking about, man, we are generous with our time that we would go serving kiddos and love and be a part of that journey. What's crazy is when you serving kiddos, right? That what you just saw, those children you just saw, you get to have hands-on impact in them growing up to be like Jesus. And at the same time, you get mom and dad an hour break so they don't go crazy, so they can sit in here. And sometimes they fall asleep. I'm just going to be honest, right? They're here and they fall asleep on me, but that's what they needed for their soul, so that's okay. But the reality is that we're generous, and one of the ways that we're generous is we're generous with our finances. And here's what has always amazed me, is when I'm generous with my finances, I often feel like it's a drop in an ocean, right? The what difference can I make? But God put us in a family. And the beauty of the family is when we all are generous together and we give the world a picture of God who is generous through us, you guys, the stuff we get to do and you get to claim that I was a part of because you're part of the family, like planting a church in Japan that we heard about a few weeks ago. Like, what? I mean, that's just crazy. And hearing about people getting food that don't have food and hearing about lights being left on in a building so that we can do this every week. I mean, it's just all of that adds up to where we get to give a footprint to the world that the Heights family, we are generous because our God's generous. And so all you see on screen, it's just ways to do that, ways to step in and be generous, and you can figure that part out. One of the things I need to let you know about that's super exciting is next weekend. Happy Thanksgiving ahead of time, by the way, but we're going to skip right past Thanksgiving for a second, okay? So next weekend, Advent kicks off. And Advent for us is 4 weeks leading up to Christmas where we just zero in on what is this time all about. And part of it, honestly, is to try and detox the culture around us and what the culture around us wants that season to be, and actually get to just slow down each weekend and remind ourselves, oh yeah, we are about Jesus and this is about his birthday. And so we're just leaning into that and being intentional over those 4 weeks. But next weekend, Saturday night, we are doing Light the Heights. And Light the Heights goes like this, that if you show up and you sit through this part, you don't even have to do that, actually. You can just show up for the other part. But after, we're going to do chili and cornbread outside because it'll be a little cool. So chili and cornbread sounds good. And it feels really fall to do chili and cornbread. But I digress. So Light the Heights, we're going to turn on the lights on campus. We'll probably have Christmas music more than likely going on, and the family gets to hang out together, and we just get to enjoy ushering in the Advent season. And in the Advent season for us, like I said, we're specifically focusing on what God has done for us in the person of Jesus. And so another thing going along with the Advent season, on December the 3rd, so all the way through Advent, every week, we're going to have a step in towards our community. We're going to love on different groups within our community. And the first one is we just want to love on our veteran community. And so we're going to do a meal here, a dinner for veterans and their families, and you can be a part. Yeah. You can be a part by helping serve dinner. And so if that interests you and you want to, it doesn't cost you anything, just time and energy. But if you want to be a part in loving on some of our veterans and their families, that'll be happening here. You can find out more information online of how to step into that, or you can ask somebody in the lobby on your way out. But every week we'll have a step in like that doesn't cost anything, just time and energy. And so it's just a beautiful thing that we're doing through Advent, super exciting. We have Prescott Valley stuff coming in Advent, and you'll find out more about that next week. And so it's a good season. It's a good season. We got families being celebrated. This morning, if you're new here or you're new on our online location, I want to invite you into who we are. So what I mean is, if you're new to this space, you're new to the Heights family, and you're like, I'm not really sure about you guys yet. That's okay. We all got weird uncles. I get it. But if you're here and you're going, man, I'm really just learning how to pursue Jesus, today's a great day, because what you're going to hear about is one of, to me, the most supernatural benefits we get in following Jesus. And what I hope today, just like through worship, just like you saw with the families that were up here, one of the beautiful things is if we walk alongside them, that lifts a weight from them as parents. I hope today that when we get done with our time together, that there's a supernatural happening in your soul and you walk out lighter than when you walked in. I hope that you physically walk out of this space differently than when you walked in, because in this space, in this time, you were able to do something supernatural that only comes because of a relationship with Jesus. And we'll get into what that is, but before we do, I need to ask you a question, okay? Frame up that question. I was in the Fry's parking lot this week. And y'all, I'm gonna be honest with you right up front, I'm kind of a hot mess this weekend. I don't know where this is gonna go. I'm trusting that God leads it where I think it's gonna go, but if you would join me on that hot mess journey today. But part of my hot mess journey this week is I was in the Fry's parking lot on Friday, and I was a little bit distracted. I'd gone to Fry's to get something. If you work at Fry's, this is not a knock on you. Nowhere in Prescott had what I was looking for, but Fry's didn't have it. And so I walk out and I'm texting my wife about going somewhere else. And then that led to another text. So I kind of wasn't paying attention, but I was walking and texting. It's safer than driving and texting. So my car's parked way down the end of the row, and I'm walking along and I'm texting. And if you drive a red car, this is about you. So if this resonates with you, I'm talking about you, and I mean to talk about you. Welcome to being a pastor. So I'm walking along and I'm texting, right? And as I'm texting, all of a sudden there is a horn, and it's not like my Mazda horn that was like meep meep. This is like a ma, right? So I'm walking along and I literally jump, thinking there's an accident about to happen. So look around and discover it's just me in the red car. To which I'm like, there's 3 feet of passing room. I realized I wasn't paying attention and walking with my head down, but literally there's 3 feet. To which the car passes. I had many thoughts in that moment, if I'm honest. And the Lord reminded me I'm a pastor in a small town. And I went, okay, fair enough. Oh man, it's gonna be a long morning. And so anyways, I get past and this lady comes up and she goes, what was that all about? And I'm like, exactly. Now I have somebody who proves my innocence, right? Now I got a witness. Now I'm justified in how I feel. So now I get back to my car and my wheels are turning. I might have watched the car go around the corner, if I'm honest. Well, wouldn't you know it? The parking spot in front of me, who pulls into it? You guys would be so proud. I got out of that car and no, I didn't. You guys would be so proud. I sat there and went, I need to let it go. It's one thing when we're in a parking lot and get honked at and it's unjustified and the offense is handed to me. It's another thing when offenses are handed to you You didn't ask for them. They were unkind, whatever it happens to be. My question for you this morning is this, and this is what we're going to work through in our time that's left. What do you do when you're hurt? What do you do when you're offended? If you've been with us, you know I got to get my table. So this is my transition to my table. Welcome. But what do you do when you're hurt? When life hasn't gone, if you've been with us for the last few weeks, you know we've been in the life of Joseph. And by Joseph, I mean Old Testament Joseph, not Christmas Joseph. We'll get to Christmas Joseph next week. But these lines, when I like the lines at the bottom when they represent my life. When what I thought was going to happen happens. But you guys, can I be honest for a moment? My life is the middle of that graphic right now. This week, it just went sideways. Didn't expect it, didn't plan on it, didn't ask for it. I got handed an offense. I'm hurt. And we'll talk about that more in a little bit. But what do you do when life doesn't pan out the way you thought it would? And you get handed hurt. If you've been with us, you know we're in the life of Joseph. And Joseph, man, you don't have to go far. His brothers couldn't say a kind word about him. People that should have loved him actually spoke ill of him. Maybe you can relate. Joseph's handed an offense. On top of that, his brothers hate him. They're jealous about him. More offenses. On top of that, he has a dream, and in the dream in those days, that was God talking. This was a God moment. This was a faith moment. And what happens is his own brothers go, really? You really think we're going to bow down to you someday? Good luck, slugger. You're not hearing from God. It's another offense. Couple that with, then he has another dream, and he tells now his dad, and his dad looks at him, and his dad is skeptic about his faith. His dad looks at him and goes, really? You're a man of God now? Uh-huh. That's going to happen. To which just fuels more hatred from his family. It's more offense that's been handed. He fast forward, his dad uses him, sends him out as a spy. He gets to his brothers, and his brothers plot to kill him and plot against him. And it's not long before, as you watch it unfold, they act violently towards him. So words turns to violence. They strip him of identity. They push him in a hole. They leave him for dead. And they sit and have a meal. I'm offended for Joseph. I'm hurt for Joseph. I mean, if we humanize the story, we begin to get a grasp that he didn't ask for any of it. That what was done to him was unjust. That what was done to him was unfair. Couple that with, he gets sold. The people he's sold to decide they can make more money if they sell him to the empire. So they sell him to Egypt. So the people that bought him don't even want him. And his value is more in what I can get in silver than it is you as a human being. Human trafficking. So he's trafficked now into a foreign country with people he has no clue who they are. On top of that, he's sold to a house of Potiphar, and Potiphar's wife decides, I'm going to take advantage of you and I'm going to give you an indecent proposal. And in that indecent proposal, he refuses, which then Potiphar's wife turns around and makes up terrible. You guys, if we got those accusations against us, we'd be horrified. And he has accusations against him that bring his character into question, that after nothing but 5 years of serving this person Potiphar comes home and goes, I don't believe you, Joseph, you're going to jail. And in fact, in those days, there was no parole. You're going to jail to rot. More offense. More offense. On top of that, as he's in jail, now two people show up. A cupbearer and a baker, and they both work for Pharaoh. Pharaoh is the king. He's the ruler of this empire. They both worked for him until Pharaoh got mad at them and sent them to jail. In jail, they have dreams, and Joseph ends up interpreting their dreams. The first one, the cupbearer, he's like, it's going to turn out good. In 3 days, you're going to be reinstated. The other one, the baker, he goes, in 3 days, not so good, you're going to lose your head. It comes true. What Joseph has said to the cupbearer is, hey, when you get back to Pharaoh, Like, remember me. The cupbearer gets reinstated. He ends up back with Pharaoh. And guess what? He doesn't remember Joseph. More hurt. He's forgotten. He's neglected. He's left to rot. And just a side note on the Bible, you guys, God's time is not like our time. Here's what I mean. It just says this simple phrase as it transitions from the cupbearer not remembering him. And 2 years later, 2 years in prison, forgotten, carrying the fence he was handed by this cupbearer, who is now living back in the space he was and living the life. Well, wouldn't you know it, Pharaoh has some dreams. And as Pharaoh has dreams, it begins to trigger some stuff. And so he begins to ask, like, who can interpret this dream, right? And so Pharaoh's going around and none of his wise men can interpret the dream. And all of a sudden, just like God, the cupbearer goes, oh, wait a minute. There's this guy in jail. Yeah, I did him dirty, but I remember him and he could probably do it. So Joseph's dragged out of jail to be used again, in all fairness, dragged into Pharaoh's presence. And as he gets into Pharaoh's presence, he interprets the dream. And the dream goes like this, that Pharaoh, there's going to be 7 years of plenty and there's going to be 7 years of famine. You're going to feast for 7 years and have amazing harvests, but then for 7 years, you're having nothing. And that's not just you, that's the entire world. So Pharaoh, being the man that he is, he goes, well, who can help us out? Who can solve this for us? So they ask around the wise men, and it becomes pretty evident that Joseph is the wisest person in the room. And he goes, okay, Joseph, you are going to be second in command of the entire empire. You are the second most powerful man in the entire place. And so Joseph now sits in that seat. They have 7 years of plenty. Joseph builds up store barns, and Egypt is safe. But wouldn't you know it, famine hits, and by year 2, which just in the timeline, we're now 22 years removed from when he left his family. So 22 years later, famine hits, and wouldn't you know it, Joseph's family is hungry because they got no harvest. But they heard, hey, wait, there's food in Egypt. And so now they go up to Egypt, and when they get there, Joseph now has a new name, a new identity. He looks different. He got a new family, right? And he speaks a new language, and they don't recognize Joseph. But Joseph recognizes them. And instantly, pain comes back, and Joseph weeps. Then fast forward a little further, the brothers, a couple things happen. Anyways, the brothers get brought back, and Joseph's kind of rigged the game on them with this silver cup and a satchel to make sure the younger one has to stay. And it's the first time in Joseph's experience with his brothers that Judah steps forward, and Judah goes, please don't keep Benjamin because our father will die. Let me take Benjamin's place. And then in chapter 45, you get these words. Then Joseph could no longer control himself before all his attendees, and he cried out, have everybody leave my presence. So there was no one with Joseph when he made himself known to his brothers, and he wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard him and Pharaoh's household heard about it. Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still living? But his brothers were not able to answer him because they were terrified at his presence. I want to give you just a visual that we can walk through the rest of our time together of what's happening in Joseph's experience. Because Joseph is at the point now where he's revealing himself. After 22 years, all the hurt stacked up. But I want you to catch where the view that Joseph has, because it will transform the view that we have. It'll challenge the view that we have. It'll challenge you today to step into the supernatural. And so I've asked a couple of friends, Brian and Sabrina, if they would come hang out with me. And they literally found out during worship, you guys, give them a hand. Like literally, I walk past and I'm like, they'll do it. Welcome, welcome. Do me a favor, you want to stand on that side for me? And you can stand over here. So you ever go through life? Don't worry, I'm not going to make you talk, I promise. You ever go through life and you have that moment where you talk about your wife's cooking? You ever talk about your wife's cooking? You ever make a comment that you're like, like right as it left your mouth? Yeah. Welcome to marriage. And what's handed is an offense. And now what happens is you didn't mean to insult her cooking. You didn't mean to compare it to your mom's, right? You didn't mean to say it was subpar or could have used a little something, But what happens is on your side, you were handed an offense and you have to make a choice. But a lot of times we choose to hold the offense because we think there's some kind of power in holding the offense. But as it is, you hunt, right? She ever get tired with your hunting? She probably enjoys it because he's gone. There's an offense. There you go. Man, you guys are making this easy for me. But reality is, at some point, you're going to be offended, right? And as you're holding yours, you decide that, well, you don't like the way she drives. He doesn't. See, he doesn't. I didn't know that, but now I do. And he doesn't like the way that she decides to keep herself. And so he makes a comment just slightly like, so-and-so. And all of a sudden, she's got offenses that it's one thing to have one, it's another thing to have multiple. And I actually had this imagery this weekend of giving you all offense, but I was told it'd be really expensive, so we decided not to. But you guys, you know how reality, how much this would look like reality if we all tried to walk out carrying those like that out of here into your car? And yet we carry offenses every single day that we don't deal with. But anyways, she's mad now. So she decides that if she's hurt, she should definitely lob a few more your way. It smells good? Well, that backfired on me because offense is not supposed to smell good. Here's the reality. When you carry offenses, there's a chance that you get splinters, right? Chances that you hurt yourself. And should I give it to him? Does he deserve it?
Sure he does.
Yes. For sure. For sure. And here's what happens is we go through life like Joseph and we collect offenses. But they get heavy. They get heavy. They weigh us down. People hurt us. Circumstances don't go the way we planned. And what happens is because we can't carry them, and fences are designed to what? What do you do with a fence? You build a wall. And so what happens is she's like, oh yeah? Well, it's 4 years later, and I'm still ticked off about what you think of my food. And you know what? I like the way I drive. In fact, I'm going to highlight every time I drive a little more how you don't like me to drive. Want to do me a favor? I'm going to start to build that side. And he's still hunting, and every time he hunts, you know it, she goes and spends money because that'll show him, right? He'll wish he didn't go hunting, and you can kick it. Because what happens is, if you can go ahead and stand on this side, is as we begin to fill in the gaps, what happens to the two of them? They can't see each other, right? They're on different sides. But wait, it started so innocent, you guys. It started about you needed more seasoning. I mean, I know we're talking about like little things. You can fill in the big things. I don't need to go through a list of big things. And you know what happens culturally when this starts to take place and they can't see each other anymore? Because all they can see is their what? Fences. What happens in our culture at this point? They decide to split. But wait, it started over your cooking and his hunting, right? Would you guys give them a hand? I appreciate you guys. Thank you. In the time we have left, and we don't have much, And I promise I'll move as quickly as I can. But you guys, I am 100% burdened this weekend for our family. Because I think what is ripping the heart out of us as a family and out of the culture around us is we cannot let go of stuff. We've been offended at some point, and we allow our offenses to build fences that divide us, and it's not okay. It's not like Jesus. And we have to do the hard work. And today, and that's why it's supernatural, because the hard work that we've got to do is supernatural. It's not natural to humans. You know what's natural to humans? To carry. You know what's natural for Joseph at this point of the story? It's natural for Joseph to remember. You know why? Because as a human, God made you to remember. The whole idea of forgive and forget, I don't know where that came from. It's certainly not the Bible. How do I know that? Because God made you as a human with memory. And if you have been truly hurt, you cannot just forget it, but you can choose what you do with it. You can choose to carry it and build things that are detrimental to you. Because what happens is if I am on this side, all I can see is my offenses. And if all I can see is my offenses, guess what? I can't see anyone on the other side. And you know it's supernatural to see each other, right? The only way you get to truly see each other is through God. And I want to show you just in a few minutes what Joseph worked through. And hopefully that when we answer the question, what do I do with my offenses and what do I do with my hurt? What do I do with the harm that's been caused me? What do I do with all of this baggage that I carry, that life's dealt my way? I'm hoping that as we walk through this, we'll come out with some real just clear things that we can just step into. And so Joseph with his brothers there, Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph, is my father still living? Verse 3. But his brothers were not able to answer him because they were terrified at his presence. Then Joseph said to his brothers, come close to me. When they had done so, he said, I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold to Egypt. He hasn't forgotten. He didn't forget. In fact, there's a moment in here where his hurt's revealed. It's still real to him. It's still a painful memory. His brothers in a prior chapter are standing there and his brothers begin to talk and they go, oh, we remember how distressed he was when he pleaded for his life. And it says that Joseph had to turn away and weep. This is 22 years later. He's still feeling what happened. But what you do with it when it pops up, because let's be honest, if we're going to let go of stuff, if we're going to work through stuff, if we're going to do the supernatural, it's a process. It's a process. And now do not be distressed. And do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here. Excuse me, Joseph. Back up for 1 second. We are going to be offended. We're going to hold those offenses. And now they're in front of you. You're the second most powerful in the entire place. Let's let them have it. I mean, let's be honest. Let's be human. I would do that. That would be my heart. If not for the supernatural. I'm the only one, huh? Okay. All right. Because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. Oh, wait a minute. See what he did there, right? The because, that's his lens that he's looking through, letting them off the hook. Bible terms, the lens of God is up to something is the lens that allows him to step into forgiveness. He sees God before he sees them. He sees God before he sees them. And this pattern continues on through. For 2 years now, there has been famine in the land, and for the next 5 years, there will be no plowing and reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth to save your lives by a great deliverance. He's talking about prophecy here. God had spoke years ago saying through this family, he was going to bless the entire world. This is God's way of saving that family, and God's on the move. AKA God's up to something. If you're a Christian in the room and you want to walk into forgiveness, then you have to know something, that everything has been done in your life, that God can work it for good because he is a good God and he is on your side and he is working for you. God's ahead of you. He's already working things out. And that's the confidence that I have, That even in the worst situation, even in the worst thing that you could possibly imagine, God is working all things out for the good, for the good. Why? Because now we're connected to kingdom good, and God's good has to do with people. He's going to use it. And Joseph goes, hey, in fact, in chapter 50, we can jump there. But in chapter 50, his brothers are still trying to manipulate the game. Dad's passed away now. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, what if Joseph holds a grudge against us and pays us back for all the wrongs we did to him? So they sent word to Joseph saying, your father left these instructions before he died. This is what you are to say to Joseph. I ask you to forgive your brothers the sins and the wrongs they committed in treating you so badly. Now, please forgive the sins of the servants of God of your father. When their message came to Joseph, he wept because the assumption was he hadn't forgiven. Listen to Joseph's words. His brothers came, and when they threw themselves down before him, we are your slaves. But Joseph said to them, don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God? Okay, I want to help you out real quick. When you hold unforgiveness, you are taking the role of God in someone else's life. Be careful the seat you choose to sit in. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. So then, don't be afraid. I will provide for you and your children. You know what I love about Joseph? In another part, it says, I will provide for you, and you can live here, and it will be near me. Y'all, when we get into forgiveness, it's okay to put boundaries. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting and now, hey, come on over for Thanksgiving. No. There's boundaries that are put in place. Boundaries are okay. Joseph has very, very clear boundaries. You can live near me, but you ain't living with me. When it comes to forgiveness, it requires that we see things through God's lens. Don't you wish we had an example to follow? Colossians chapter 3, verse 12. So chosen by God for this new life of love, dress in the wardrobe God picked out for you. Compassion, kindness, humility, quiet strength, discipline. Be even-tempered, content with second place. Boy, that goes against culture. Content with second place. Quick to forgive an offense. You see, if I'm quick to forgive an offense, they don't add what? Up. And if they don't add up, I don't have any material to do what? Build a fence with. I got to be quick to forgive, quick to forgive. Now, that would be one thing if it's just a command, but listen to why. Listen to the model. Forgive as quickly and completely. Forgive as quickly and completely as the master forgave you. You ever heard that phrase? Hurt people, hurt people? Forgiven people, forgive people. Y'all, as a follower of Jesus, I don't have a choice but to forgive. Right? Like if I ever hold an offense and I get to the point where I am building a fence, it's because I've chosen not to walk in the light that I have a Savior that took my worst. And there's a good chance that I've cleaned myself up if I can't forgive you. There's a good chance that I actually think I'm something that I'm not. Because the story that we have in Scripture, the reason we need a Savior is because we were so rotten to the core that we did horrific things. Sin is horrific to God. And Jesus chose to stand in the gap and go, I will take all of your sin on me. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 21. He who knew no sin became sin for you. Why? So that you could become the righteousness of God. He became sin, meaning he took your sin on him. Why? So that you could be forgiven. You know what forgiveness brings? Freedom. So what do I do when I'm hurt? I look to Jesus. But here's the problem. If I'm at this point, I need a wrecking ball to come through my fence. But what I have to do, because when I build a fence, I also put Jesus on the other side. What I have to do is I have to catch a glimpse of Jesus again. I have to see through the cracks. What am I looking at through the cracks? I need to forgive because you forgave me. I forgive as I'm forgiven. If you're in this room and you're forgiven today, it's a holy mandate on your life that you forgive others the way you've been forgiven. That means you gotta get rid of the offenses. How do we do that? How do we do that? We get our eyes on Jesus. Now we take them, and it's gonna be loud. So if you jump easy, you've been warned. I take the offense, I let it go. Oh, my cooking's not good enough? I'm not gonna let that tear through my divorce. I'm gonna have a quick conversation. You know what? When you said that, it hurt. It hurt, but I'm not gonna carry it. I'm letting it go. Wait, you don't like it when I hunt? I love hunting. Do you really don't like it? Can we figure something out? Yeah, we can work through it. And I'll let it. Oh, wait a minute, your driving drives me crazy. Women in the room are like, I wish he'd just ask for directions. Let it go, let it go. Man, when you said this, it really, really got me. When that horrific thing was done to you, and I don't mean to make light of it by dropping a board, but you guys, we carry stuff that we've got to let go, because if we don't, we're going to build things that we were never designed to build. You've been forgiven. I have to take it. I have to see Jesus, because in Jesus, I'm forgiven. I forgive you. I let it go. And now all of a sudden, not only can I see Jesus, but I can see the people he died for. And he wants to work for good. So you know what that means? He wants to use my life for your good, no matter what comes in my life. No matter what comes in my life, I'm not gonna hold you prisoner. No matter what comes in my life, I'm gonna hold the standard that Jesus held before me, that I'm gonna forgive as he forgave. You know how he taught us to pray, right? Forgive us our debts as we have forgiven our debtors. It's an expectation. He teaches us to pray by going, hey, forgive my debts, God, because I'm forgiving my debtors. The way I'm forgiving them, I'm mirroring you to them. Guys, I'm so burdened. We carry so many offenses. We build so many sides. But in Jesus, he tore them down. He tore them down. How do I know that? Because all of my offenses to him, he goes, I'll not only tear them down, I'll take them to a cross and I'll pay for them for you so that you can go free. My week took a turn Thursday. This guy right here, 3 years old. He struggled to breathe from the day he was born. He also struggled from something else you'll see in the next picture. He's got cherry eye in his right eye, or left eye for him. And on Thursday, planned well ahead, he'd done the pre-visit. We're gonna go in and we're gonna fix his eye so he can see, and we're gonna help him with his breathing. We can go back to the other picture. You guys, or you're already there, you beat me. You guys, this dog, and I get it, you might be sitting in the room going, John, it's a dog. Okay, that's fair. But can I tell you, this dog helped my wife? When she's struggling with her health, this dog would go sit with her. And this dog would just love her. He's like no dog I've ever met. He's more like a person than a dog. He was gentle like no other, patient like no other. Would never fight for attention. But my wife would go outside, he'd go sit next to her. She'd get up to do her time with God, he'd sit next to her. Never fight for attention, but just be there. So we take him in for routine surgery. On Thursday, we drop him off at 7 in the morning. And at 1 o'clock, we get a call, or 1:30, something like that. I don't remember. We got some complications. We lost him for 10 minutes. We did CPR, we were able to get him back. We're gonna monitor him, we'll let you know how it goes, but right now we're not gonna do the surgery. Okay. 4 minutes later, he's gone. 3 years old, out of the blue, routine. And y'all, I would love to tell you that I was a great pastor in that moment. Oh, I was great to my wife and to people around me. But you know what language started to come out of my mouth? This is somebody's fault. He was as healthy as could be this morning. Somebody messed up. Somebody needs to pay. And all of a sudden I started hearing myself. I got home and I said one of those lines, and gentlemen, marry a godly woman, because my wife looked at me and goes, you need to stop that right now. For whatever reason, God just impressed on me, you gotta go to the hospital and figure out what happened. And so then next day, Friday, go down to the hospital and sitting in a room, doctor comes in, and you guys, it was as clear can be. This is why I'm here. The doctor began to explain that she had never lost a patient. And I began to see the trauma that she'd gone through trying to save my boy. And I began to see the impression that it left on her. And all of a sudden, I was able to let go, because I was like, in this moment, I need to be Jesus. And in this moment, I get to love you. And in this moment, I just get to tell you it's okay. And see, we never know what God's up to, right? I don't know if that's the end of the story. I don't know what God's up to, but I know that's a beautiful part of it. Why? Because when we let go of the offense, because we see Jesus, when we let go of the offense, we see the other person. And God works all things together for good for those who love him. I don't know what God is up to. I'll be real honest with you today. But I do know this, he's up to good. Why? Because my God is good. And what he demands of me is that I live out my faith in spite of the circumstances, in spite of the offenses, in spite of what I've been given. There's a moment in Matthew chapter 5, in verse 23, that Jesus is teaching. And he says, therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar, AKA going to church, and there you remember your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, then come and offer your gift. God says, hey, before you come, you're not going to be able to see me if you're behind a fence. You got to tear down the fence and let it go. You got to let it go. But I'll be real honest with you, it's supernatural, because it's not natural to us as humans. We still hurt. We still remember. But we're called by Almighty God to let go. So as we are going to worship here in a minute, but before we do, I would love to do something. I'd love to just take a moment, because I don't want to miss it. Like I said before, I believe with everything we've got that, man, if there's ever a time that we need to let stuff go, it's now. Bitterness, unforgiveness, it leads to hatred. It leads to victimization of yourself. It leads to a pit you don't want to be in. How do I get out of it? I let go. So this morning, I want to pray for you because y'all, supernatural, this is not easy. And so we're going to dim lights. You can bow your heads. I believe with everything I got, when I make a decision, a spiritual decision, and letting go is a spiritual decision. When I make a spiritual decision to let go, I believe that it helps to have a physical response. But the physical response today, one is for you to cement, God, I'm letting go. You see me, I'm letting go today. I'm not carrying this anymore. I'm not going to be held to this anymore. God, I'm going to forgive as you forgave. The second piece of it is I just want to pray for you because I get it today. I'm walking it today. And so if you're in the room and you go, I got somebody to forgive, there's offenses I need to let go, I've been carrying this too long, you need to know that when you let go, freedom is on the other side. Hope, joy, love is on the other side. So if you're in the room and you're like, I got something to let go today, I got forgiveness to give, if you would raise your hand, I'm going to pray for you. Thank you. Hands all over. We got stuff. We're in it together. So God, we come before you this morning. You are the maker. You are the creator. You are the God who is trustworthy and good. God, would you forgive us for the times we just carry stuff we should not carry? God, would you forgive us for the times when we hold others prisoner? God, when we try to play God to them by not granting forgiveness. God, I pray over every single person with their hand up in the room today. I pray over every single person who in this room goes, I need to let go. God, I pray that you would bring to mind all of the areas, all of the ways that we are lacking in giving forgiveness and granting forgiveness the way that you have called us to. God, would you allow us today to let go of offenses? Would you give us eyes for people? Would you teach us how to set healthy boundaries? But God, would you teach us how to walk forward? And every time we're tempted to pick it back up, would you remind us of this moment when we let it go? And God, would we leave it where it belongs? Would you help us to not talk about it as we move forward? But God, we would just leave it where it belongs. It's paid for by the precious blood of Jesus. And so God, as we stand and we sing and we worship in these next moments and we declare that we look to you because you are where our help comes from. God, would you take these words and would they become something that we walk out of this moment free, with freedom, because we have forgiven and we let go from this moment. Thank you for grace and mercy. Thank you for loving us first. And everybody said, amen.